I get the pleasure of introducing my friend today, Eddie Wilson. I'm sure most of you have heard of him. He amazes me. He's done more stuff in his. Are you even 40 yet,
I'm
Eddie?
43. 43.
Oh, he's old, guys. 43. He's done more in his lifetime than most of us do together in a lifetime. With buying and selling companies. And I've said to a bunch of people, he's the smartest guy I know. It's just amazing how, the picture that you see when you look at things. But what really blew me away is last year I was invited to a Christian business conference called Limits. And I'm sitting down and I'm looking at this presentation from Eddie, and he's got a complete marketing plan and budget on spreading the gospel throughout the world and a time frame on when it's going to happen. And I'm sitting there going, people do this for their companies all the time, but Eddie did it for Jesus. Like, how in the world? And it all makes sense. I was blown away, not only by your plan, but by the people that you brought in to share with us. And it's coming up this weekend. So I thought it would be just perfect timing to have you come on and talk. First of all, I want you to talk a little bit about, how you even got to this point. But tell us about what it is you're doing, Eddie. And I know I could have done a much better job of that introduction, but you blow me away.
Well, no, I appreciate you being on here. I'm actually coming to you from Cabo, Mexico, way over on the
Thank
West
you.
Coast. Yeah, today's our 23rd wedding anniversary. So we're over here.
Happy
Yeah,
anniversary.
thank you. Celebrating before we head back to Florida for the Limits Conference. But yeah, for me, and thank you so much for your story, Wendy. Like, I have had quite a few loved ones that have just, passed on and are now with the Lord. And just that idea of being absent from the body and immediately present with the Lord is such an amazing thing. It's like we fear death so much. And it's like, and when you're a Christian, like, you don't close your eyes and then you have some horrible experience. When you're a follower of Jesus and you know what happens the moment you close your eyes and you open them like your father did, you're present with the Lord, and it's just a passing over. It's a reuniting with something that your soul has longed for since the moment you first trusted in Jesus. And I love that story this morning. Thank you so much. It really helped me. But for me, the gospel made a massive impact in my life. I had some success early on in my career, but like many found just at the end of all of that success, just emptiness. And my father, who was such a spiritual guide and just always a constant guide in my life, really got me. I trusted Christ as a younger man, but really just never completely fully surrendered. And my dad really, he made a huge impact on my life, where he said, the just like Tom was talking about this morning, he's like, you're worshiping the wrong things. Like, your emptiness comes because at the end of all of that worship, there is nothing. There's nothing to fulfill what it is that you desire except for Jesus. And so I really, began that journey of trying to find out who he really was in my life. And this is about 24, 25 years of age. And really just the gospel made such an impact on my life. The gospel is everything. And to every person who does not have the gospel, it's still everything. They just don't know the impact that they're missing out on. And so for me, it was like, it made such an impact on my life that it turned my whole life around. And so it wasn't like it took me from a lack of success to success. It took me from a place of success to a place of where I understood where my success came from and true fulfillment in success. And then I realized that everything in this world had nothing to do with success. And so the journey that I was on really was a massive journey of transformation. And so, like you said, I've bought and sold quite a few companies, and I'm a real estate fanatic. I'm a third generation real estate investor. And but for me, it's really the gospel has changed my life so much. And so as I began to just have some successes in life, I had a grandmother that, always talked about genealogy and things like that. And, I grew up, and my grandmother's a Jewish lady, and I've always heard for the better part of my life that I'm 66 generations removed from the time of Jesus Christ. And I've always heard, and they chart our genealogy way back, and 66 generations, and Jesus in, Matthew 28 and Mark 16 tells us to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And really, in 66 generations, we have not fulfilled the one command that Jesus gave us. And that really sank inside of my heart. And actually, my CFO, Dave, who is kind of a crazy guy, we began to start just putting out broadcasts. And the broadcast really was not intentional to do anything other than I was in media. I had the money to do it. So we put these broadcasts together, and I'd take guys that would give the gospel, and I put these broadcasts out on national TV. We had an Indian man call in one day, and he was in Columbus, Ohio, and he had watched it in his hotel room. And he said, he got a hold of my secretary, and he said, can I get a hold? He said, I want to talk to the man who's responsible for this television broadcast. And so she said, hey, Eddie, you need to talk to this guy. He wants to know who's responsible for this broadcast. And I said, oh, I don't want to talk to him. I thought the guy was going to be mad at me and chew me out. And she said, no, he's really serious. He said he needs to talk to you. And this man got on the phone, and he said, Eddie, he said, my name's Israel Velagu. He said, you don't know me. I just watched a broadcast. And he said, my life was, he said, moved, but not only moved, he said it was changed. He said, I've trusted Christ earlier in my life. He said, but he said, my grandfather, who was, he said, was a preacher in Andhra Pradesh, India, he said, was killed for his faith. He was a martyr. He said he was a preacher, and he was killed for his faith. And he said, and I've done little to nothing for our Lord. And he said, even though I trusted as a young man, he said, I've done nothing. And he said, and I'm so convicted. He said, I wonder if you'd partner with me to do more. And I said, well, sure, I'm not sure what that means. And he said, well, I own the largest broadcast company in the country of India. He said, if the government would give me permission, would you help me start producing programs just like the one I watched? He said, but in, the various languages of India. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I said, sure, let's try it. So I formed a company called Christian Media International, CMI, and it's a nonprofit organization. That really was the founding of it. We began to put out broadcasts in India. And all of a sudden, we started seeing not like, 500 people come to Christ. We were seeing thousands. There was one broadcast we put out in our early days that we put our email. We thought, well, let's just try to start capturing the data. And we put our email across the bottom of the broadcast, said if your life's been touched or you want prayer, just email this. Well, we had 40,000 emails in 17 languages come in a half-hour time period. And we was like, okay, we're onto something here, but when you're broadcasting to 1 billion people, on the #1 channel in all of India, it makes a massive difference. And so we started capturing all of those, and then we started going over to India and trying to find people that were, because we were having hundreds of converts in areas. So then we built a data program to, put them all together. And really it was to try to figure out where to put these people in a church, because the Great Commission is more than just winning them. It's go, win, baptize, and teach. And so we have to take them from just a place of belief to a place of discipleship and understanding. He says to teach them whatsoever things I've commanded you. And it's like, so there has to be some sort of a local church or a local presence for baptism and for discipleship. And so, we were on a quest to now take these big group of people into, some sort of a structure like that. And so now that was 2013. Now it's 2023. 10 years later, we're in 124 countries. I think we have close to, I think we're right around 3.5 billion people under the sound of the gospel right now. I think we've planted 430 some churches. And it's just our passion. We decided that what if, and then my CFO said to me one day, he said, what if, Eddie, what if we took the Great Commission, and instead of us saying as Christians as a whole, our responsibility is to take the gospel to the world. And he said, what if every one of us changed the way we thought and said, what if it was my responsibility to do everything I can within my power to reach the world with the gospel? And he said, and if your reach isn't the whole world, he said, what if just a change of mind got broader than what it is today. And I said, okay, well, what do you think our reach is? And he said, what if we plan to reach the world? And I said, okay. When we went on about a 30 to 60 day period where we drew out everything, we called every person we knew. I flew to, I don't know, 20 countries or something like that. And it started to come together. And that's what Wendy was talking about, was we put together a map and every language that needs to be programmed. And that really was the start of Christian Media International and its growth. And so we have 12 operational studios around the world. We produce about 72,000 hours worth of broadcast a year. We need to get to close to 96,000 hours of broadcast to get the gospel to the whole world. We've got regions that we're struggling to get the gospel into, like the Amazon region that we're working hard into. But we get the chance to preach the gospel to, and not me, but preachers all over the world. They get to preach it in the craziest places. We're the #1 broadcast on Al Jazeera TV. How they let us broadcast on Al Jazeera, I'll never know, but they let us do it. All over the Middle East, and we see millions of Muslims come to Christ, and it's an amazing thing. But anyways, one thing that we did was I got to a place where about 3 years ago I said, what if I went broader? Like, what if we are focused on doing our part, but really I think we had this mindset shift, and I said, everything we do limits the gospel in our life, and everything we're doing and everything we have should be a conduit for that fruit that Tom was talking about. We're not only we're supposed to be fruitful, and for us that fruit is creating new believers and new disciples, and through glorifying God. And so for us, I said, what if I just put together a Christian gathering? And we call it the Limits Conference, really because I believe that we do so much in our life to limit what God wants to do through us. And I just invited a bunch of business friends and owners together, and real estate people. And I just said, hey, what if we took a couple of days, or I think we take about literally a full day. It's spread over 2 days. It's a half a day and then a half a day. And we just focused on how do we take off the limits of the gospel? And we gathered to this year, it's this coming Monday and Tuesday, and it's in the Jacksonville area. Jacksonville, Florida. We'd love to have any of you. And we've got Tim Tebow coming, and it's been an amazing journey where I've just seen a bunch of people just attached to the idea and the vision of what we've got going on. And so we spend 2 days together talking about how to take the limits off the gospel, because I think that everything in our life, everything that we have, our businesses, our investments, our time, are deserving and worthy of our effort to try to be a conduit to allow God to do something through us. And so that's what we do. I've got some pretty amazing people. I've got a guy coming in from Pakistan who we're trying to plant 100 churches in Pakistan. I've got a guy coming from Mexico, Sam Robles, a young guy that will blow your mind. We've got him on television down there, and I've got a guy coming from Guyana, from literally the jungle regions of Guyana, as we're doing everything we can to try to get the gospel into the Amazon. And we've got some amazing people. Tim Tebow's coming, and then I've got some business strategists, some people that are really just going to help us understand how to use our business more to do more for the gospel's sake. So that's what it is, Wendy. It's this coming Monday and Tuesday in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, sorry. Ginger actually just posted the link if you would like to go.
Perfect.
And Eddie, we've got people that are asking how to get in touch with you. Is there an email or something
Sure.
you'd like to share with us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just easiest email is Eddie, EDDIE, at collectiveinfluence.com. That's my private equity firm. Eddie at collectiveinfluence.com.
Got it. Okay. So, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you're doing here. It's just, just the people, of course, I could call Tim and ask him to show up at any one of my events. But he would answer your call.
He would
That's
love
the
this. He would love
difference.
this Bible study. He's all about it.
That is so cool. That is just beyond cool. So the other thing about this event, it goes all day Monday, right? And maybe half a
It's
day Tuesday.
So it starts at noon on Monday to give people time to travel in. I was trying not to take them away from their churches and things like that on Sunday. So yeah, noon on Monday, and it goes till about 8 o'clock at night. And then on Tuesday, we start at about 8:30 in the morning, and it'll go till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's awesome. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, that I really liked about the last event is you allowed us to take um, good, decent breaks so that we could really talk to each other and
Yeah.
share with each other. You allowed the Holy Spirit to be spontaneous, and it was really, really good, just beyond good. Eddie, there's a question I have for you, and that is how does someone take their business hat off
Mhm.
and put God's CEO
Yeah.
hat on and make sure that God is the one that's truly leading what they're doing? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's the quest of my life. I think it's my daily journey as well. And it's like, I think that is so important. And I think that really for me, Wendy, I felt like that's what I was trying to do all the time. I was trying to take off, Eddie's CEO hat and put on, God, God in my life. And what I realized is really they're not interchangeable. It's all the same thing. Um, I had to get to a place where I was okay with my business and all of the activity of my life not being the definition of who I was, and allowing God to define who I was. And then I gave everything to him. I put that anchor out front in purpose. And it was like, and so for instance, the businesses we had over, I think I'm at 115 or 116 businesses, and we sold 80 of them or 90 of them. I don't know. And but every one of those to me is an opportunity to take the gospel further in this world. And so it's really, today there is no Eddie Wilson, the CEO of these companies. It really is Eddie Wilson, the COO of God's company, and he's the CEO, and I'm just taking it wherever he wants to go, and I'm just a steward of his of who he is. I think for me, it's like once that like kind of aligned together, and it was no longer like my will but his will, when it was no longer like my identity but his identity, that I don't have a problem. People ask me all the time, well, do you tell your people in your business that that so much of what you give and so much of what you do is for the gospel's sake? I say, yeah, absolutely. And I've got Mormons and Muslims and everybody else that works for me, and I am unashamed about it. I'm careful. I don't cross lines. I don't make them feel like I'm forcing them into anything. But there is a purpose in what I'm doing. And when people, it's so funny, they'll align with someone who's passionately going somewhere. And they don't necessarily always agree with what I'm doing, but they align with it. It's the craziest thing. And then this last year, we started a new nonprofit called Impact Others, which we'll talk about some at the conference, which is really more of a humanitarian push to get the gospel to the world, because it's not just going to be enough to use mass media, but we're doing a lot of humanitarian things. We've started quite a few orphanages and feeding centers, and really has allowed me to speak more on larger stages about what God's doing around the world, but from a humanitarian perspective. And we've just seen massive outpouring of corporate investments and gifts and donations, which all, I've promised my board every single time that I won't do anything that doesn't have the gospel attached to it. And so if we're going to build an orphanage, the orphans are going to get the gospel. And if we're going to do a feeding center, everybody that gets fed is going to get the gospel. And if we're going to, do a well, we're going to do a well project, everybody's going to get the gospel. So, for us, it's attaching to purpose. And so I really don't take the hats off or on anymore. I really just feel like I just sit in I think it's funny. It's like that bumper sticker, it's like, he's the pilot, I'm just the co-pilot. I'm just hanging on,
That's so cool. Can you talk a little bit about the power room,
Sure.
what that is, and how that can,
Yeah.
just how all that can work together?
Yeah, so the Power Room is a mastermind that we and Wendy, you're a part owner of the Power Room. I don't know if you ever talk about that, but you're a part owner in that, and it's a mastermind of fairly high caliber business owners and operators. I think we did a survey last year, and I think that the average business was doing around 27 million in top line. That was about the average in there, and we've got a guy that he does $1 billion in business, so he probably brings the whole average up. But we've got just a lot of powerful people in there, and it's a mastermind. We get together 4 times a year. As a matter of fact, it's the week after the Limits Conference back down in St. Augustine. But it's just a gathering of us putting, powerful people in the room. And, for me, it all ties to purpose. Everything that I make on the Power Room goes to give the gospel out. Even though it's 100% secular, and I infuse some Christianity in there. I've had Tim Tebow come up and say some things that maybe I couldn't say to that crowd that he got to say for me, and a few things like that. But I find my ways to make sure that in every situation I'm in, that there's the gospel infused into it. But it's just a good group of people. It's a mastermind. And if anybody has interest in that, you're more than welcome to come and check it out one time and see if you like it.
It really is. It's excellent. I know the first time I ever went, I was just blown away by the knowledge in the room. I also like that it wasn't just real estate directed. It's all kinds of businesses that are in there. I really, really like that. I mean, there's a lot of real estate people in there, but
Yeah.
It was a good variety. And you say that it's completely secular, but there's a whole lot of believers in that room.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think in the end, you attract who you are. And so it's hard to not have that.
that is for sure. That is for sure. Eddie, do you have time for a couple of questions?
Sure.
I
Yeah,
would
happy to.
imagine there's
Yeah, happy
people
to.
here that would like to ask a question. So if you would, you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat box. I'm sure everybody's kind of blown away to begin with. Any questions at all? Jim Ingersoll, do you have any?
Well, no, Eddie, it's great to see you. And man, I don't know what to ask Wendy because I'm so blown away and so inspired at the same time. Cheryl's sitting here listening in with me as well. And Eddie, just keep it going and let all of us know what we can do to support that mission. Because this is a like-minded group right here, and we should leverage this entire group to push out that entire mission. And that's kind of where I'm thinking. But thank you, and it's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well, Jim.
Sorry, I keep muting myself because my husband just got up, so you never know how loud it can get.
Hey, Wendy.
Go ahead, Ginger.
I just wanted to say that we attended last year and it was amazing. Eddie had some of the pastors from other countries give testimonies of how Christian Media International has touched their lives and brought so many people to their churches. I mean, I don't know how much I cried during the conference, but it was so moving. And just to see the group coming together, the real estate investors wanting to put back into Christian Media International, I want to see the gospel spread all over the world. And that's why God has given us the power to create wealth and to establish his covenant on the earth. So I just like to say, I was so touched going to the conference last year. We're going this year as well. And I can't wait. And we started giving as well into Christian media because it touched our lives. And we want to be a part of that with Eddie and the team to spread the gospel all over the world.
And you have no idea some of the people that Eddie's or CMI is touching. You could probably expound on this, Eddie, but what resonated with me, I was deployed to Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates, and got a sister-in-law from Indonesia, and the Muslim and the areas that I've been to when Eddie is funding pastors in Pakistan and Iran. And there was one pastor who Easter before last Easter, correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, they had an event in the middle of the street. Was it Pakistan or Iran?
It was Pakistan.
And the pastor is carrying a cross down the street of a country that they'd sooner hang every Christian there is than to. And I think the pastor's response to Eddie is, you know what? If I'm hung, shot, or whatever else, it's all for the gospel. And it is powerful what CMI is doing for the gospel and touching billions of people.
Yeah.
And to see the growth, it's just it's amazing.
Yeah, God's been really, really good. They're talking about a pastor by the name of Amir, which I've asked to come back to the Limits Conference this year, and so Pastor Amir will be there. And Pastor Amir is so dynamic and so humble. We finished a 2,000 seat auditorium for him in the country of Pakistan, and he's already filled it and running 2 services. You'll get to hear a lot about that on Monday and Tuesday. And we were told that church probably shouldn't run more than 50 in Pakistan because, and we've had some horrible things happen. We've had suicide bombers and stuff like that come in, but he's literally, I don't know, 3 hours drive from where, Osama bin Laden was captured in the country of Pakistan. And the country of Pakistan is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, right? So it is governed by the imams and the churches, like the actual mosque, like it's governed by the Islamic kind of overhead. And Pastor Amir, he'll tell me, and he tells me all the time, he says, if they're willing to kill me for their faith, I'm willing to die for mine. And he says that to me over and over and over again, almost to the point where I get numb to it, but he means it every time he says it. And he also knows that there always can be death. And that Easter, he does it every Easter now. I'll show you a video this coming Monday and Tuesday, but this past Easter and what he's planning on this coming up Easter is unbelievable. He'll have in the streets thousands of Christians singing at the top of their lungs that Jesus is risen and he's our Lord, and they sing this amazing song in the Urdu language, which in the Urdu language is what they consider a sacred Islamic language in Pakistan. So for him to be praising Jesus out loud with thousands of people singing in Urdu, lifting up praises to God about how he's risen, and it's an amazing thing. And he doesn't do it to incite. What he does it is for the purpose of emboldening Christians in that country. And when he said, I want to build a 2,000 seat auditorium, I said, Amir, don't you feel like that's going to be a massive target and they're just going to come after you because we've already had suicide bombers and everything else? He said, no. He said, as a matter of fact, he said, and we play, we have to play political process, but he said, Eddie, he said, Pakistans by and large are afraid of losing government support from America. He said the best thing we could ever do is make Jesus the most known thing in the most loud way. He said, because they'll never want to take you on in the streets. He said, they want to take you on in a back alley. And so we built a 2,000 seat auditorium with a massive 3-story red cross right on the side of it. And it's the most beautiful building in town, and it's amazing. But we've got stories like that by the hundreds.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Eddie, I could keep you on here till 10 o'clock this morning easily. But I know you have a wife waiting on you to enjoy your anniversary with. And
she's still in bed. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning here, I think.
Liz, I really appreciate you sacrificing this morning.
Happy
to come with us. This was just so wonderful, so inspiring. I know everyone on here is just as amazed as I am. And folks in the chat, we have put several times the link. If you'd like to go to this conference, it's on here. Eddie's email is on here as well. You can save this chat box by Going down to the bottom of the chat, there's 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, there's a place where you can save that chat onto your computer. I also want to apologize. I have not gotten Anna Kelly's information out to you all. As you know, my life's been on hold for a little while. Monday, I'm going to be human again and back actually Tuesday, because I'm going to be at the conference. So I'm going to get to hug some necks, and I'm really looking forward to that. But Tuesday, I'll get these things out to you. I'm sorry that it's taken so long, but it's so good to see you all. Eddie, I just cannot thank you enough.
Thank you.
Good stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing you